Hey, what's happening? This is Jerry with Wealth Dynamics. Thank you for tuning in. If you don't know me, that's totally my fault. My job is to help you make money, keep money, and multiply it. Why? Because I want to help you build wealth so that you can eliminate poverty in your own life and own your potential. Now, because of those things, I want to share with you why debt is not as bad as I thought it was. Now, I want to cover the topic of debt from a standpoint of what is it and how can it help us build wealth. But before I do that, I need to share with you my personal experience with debt because it's something that I think really applies. All right, so a lot of us watching may be thinking, man, isn't debt terrible? Like, doesn't Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman say not to use debt? And so I want to actually agree with you. They do say that. And a lot of times we approach debt from a point of fear and uncertainty and lack of control. So part of my story growing up, like, debt was not a good thing in my life. So when I was a kid, probably 6 years old, my parents got divorced because of debt. They were always arguing and fighting about bills and credit cards and debt. Literally that same year that they got divorced, our car got repoed because they weren't making the payments, and we had to short sell our house. Okay, so I'm 6, and I understand just enough to know that there are bills and money and debt, and it caused my family to break up, it caused our vehicle to get taken away, and it caused our home to get taken away as well. That summer, I lived in a camper in someone's backyard because of that. Okay, so when I was 6, I didn't love debt. I thought debt was bad. I didn't understand much about it, but I was like, man, there's no way debt can be good. As I got older, I started repeating the mistakes that my parents had made with debt, and it just further affirmed, like, man, debt is a terrible thing. So much so that I actually became a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider and made it my career to tell people to pay their debt off early. And so what I realized was, as I was doing that lifestyle, I was winning at paying off debt. Okay, I was winning at doing the snowball, but I wasn't winning at life. I was plateaued. I can't count actually the endless opportunities that I passed up on because I only had $1,000 saved, because I was following that plan, because I was paying my car off early. I had opportunities to travel, to grow my business, to do great things that I had to say no to because my focus was playing it safe and paying off debt. Now, one of these opportunities at some point came along, and I was like, man, I've got to go for this. I had my $1,000 emergency fund. I was excited about that, but $1,000 wasn't going to help. I needed more money to grow my business at that point in time. I was opening up another location. So I used debt. Like, I was like, man, I'm sick of passing up on opportunity. I feel like I've plateaued. I'm going to go ahead and try it and see what happens. And that was the first one. Now, a lot of you may be watching and they're like, oh, that's where it starts. That's the slippery slope. So get this. I tried that. I charged $2,400 on a credit card, started up the second location. Within weeks, that $2,400 had turned into $5,000. And I thought I was lucky. I was like, man, I just made it. I was like, I'm lucky. I don't want to do that again. I paid the $5,000 or the $2,400 off right away. And I kept doing it though. I would charge a little bit, I would use it for something in the business or on myself, and my income would go up. And then I'd pay it off, and I would charge a little bit, and then I would pay it off, and I kept on seeing increases. And after about a year of doing this, every single time, I felt like I got lucky. Like, man, I just played with a snake. Somehow it didn't bite me. I'm going to try that again, though, and see if it happens. And every single time, I'd be okay, and I'd end up with more money than I had before using the debt. And I was like, man, this must be luck, but I studied it. And the point that I realized was the debt that I was using was on myself, an asset. Okay, my childhood, the debt that was being used was not on assets. It was on a home, which is not an asset. It was on a vehicle, which is not an asset. It was on stupid stuff on my credit card, which are not assets. So no wonder I was using money to put into something that was never going to pay me back. My parents used debt to put money into something that was never going to pay them back. That's why it didn't work. And so what I realized was that when I put the debt into myself as an investment, I am my greatest investment. I believe you are your greatest investment. Even if you don't believe that about yourself, spend half an hour with me, and at the end of that half hour, I guarantee you're going to believe the same thing. Okay, so what I learned was debt is leverage. Debt can be used to produce income. So now I use debt all the time. I like to keep lots and lots of debt around because A, I would actually rather use debt than cash That's a different conversation. Cash is worse than debt. Cash is debt, by the way. Debt can be used for leverage, and debt can be used to hold me over on opportunities until investments pay off. I've charged 10, 20 grand on a credit card knowing that I would have to pay Bank of America $25 a month for the next 4 months and that I would accumulate interest, but also knowing that that $20,000 in 6 months when this thing pays off is going to be worth $100. That's what debt's for. Now, if you're watching this, you're in one of the 3 categories I mentioned. Either you're afraid of debt now, and I understand that. I had all of the reason to. I was in that point. I know the feeling you have. Like, I had butterflies in my stomach when I first charged my credit card because I was that scared of using debt. So I know the position you're in. You're afraid of debt. You don't have control over it. Or you're plateaued. You're doing the let's pay our debt thing off, and you've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years, and you're still paycheck to paycheck, and you're still broke every month, and you've still only got a couple grand in the bank, and you're still screwed if a medical emergency happens or if you lose your job because you don't have wealth. You're either in that position where you're plateaued, or you're in the third position where you're learning how to use it, and you're now looking at, where do I invest this? How do I make this grow? If you're in any of those 3 scenarios, I want to offer you a phone call with me and my team. I'm going to post a link in the comments. I want to teach you, if you're in that position where you're scared, maybe you don't use debt, but I at least don't want you to be afraid of it. Maybe you're in that plateau. I want to teach you how to get out of that plateau because I believe you're capable of doing great things, and it's going to take money to make that happen. Maybe you're in that third position where you're starting to understand how you can use debt. I want to teach you how to do it wisely so that A, you don't get bit, and B, you're able to do what I've been able to do with it, which is grow it and use it to generate more income. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Go to the link in the comments. Check out the article. Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys next time.